trying to bring valuable content, to our audience, to audiences that are doing, live content. And this one it really hits home, particularly because, just, meeting Hugh and the team at PhoneLive, just learning a lot and really thinking about, things that we probably take for granted, right? Accessibility is definitely one of those things from a website perspective, but think about it from, live content and compliancy and ensuring that, you're expanding, your reach and so forth. And so we have Hugh, who's the COO at PhoneLive, that's joining us for today's Lunch and Learn. Hugh, if you wouldn't mind, I'll let you kind of introduce yourself and where you're zooming in from. If the floor is yours.
Yeah, we're coming from Woodbury, Minnesota, a subdivision of St. Paul, Minnesota.
Nice.
Um, I've been in technology over 40 years. I've worked with all kinds of organizations and businesses and saved companies tens of millions of dollars, which is a big part.
Fantastic. Awesome. I guess to probably set the stage, what would be helpful is what is Phone Live? Like before we have a presentation, obviously we're gonna jump into and we're gonna walk through it. But we'd love to talk about, what Phone Live is.
Sure. PhoneLive is an automated phone bridge. So a lot of people use a conference call system to bring other people into their meeting, and they've got somebody managing that, making sure people mute and things like that. And so PhoneLive automates that and is a really tight data system, so you know how it's working and what's working on it, and who's participating and stuff. But as a phone bridge, the surprising thing is it became the accessibility channel for live streams for the 20% of Americans that cannot watch the live stream.
Got it. Got it. All right. I love that. So I'm going to hop right into our, oh, let me get this going here. One sec. I love when I do the wrong button. Let's share this guy. There we go. Let's go to the next slide. And there we are. So love to kind of talk about some of the organizations you work with and some of the kind of cool facts, about Phone Live.
Sure. Yeah, we have served over 1,150 organizations. That's in North America. And by North America, I mean United States and Canada. Our clients' largest audience that we worked with was over 100,000. Since this is slide was created, I think we may have crossed 65 million minutes of broadcasting that we've done.
Congratulations.
And we not only work with Switchboard Live, but it works really simple with Switchboard Live.
Got it. All right. So just to make sure folks that are tuning in, we want to make sure that this is the right webinar for you. And some of the things that we just kind of want to set the stage to make sure it's clear that we're focusing on folks that are looking to serve and support, public facing organizations who use Switchboard, right? So Switchboard, for the folks who don't know, who are chiming in, we make it really easy as a live stream management platform to be able to take whatever type of live streams you're doing, whether it's a city council meeting or public press conference or emergency management event, and ensuring that that live content is going across all of your social channels, as well as other channels that pertain to your citizens and constituents, right? And so we want to make it simple and easy for that process to go live so that you're meeting your citizens and constituents on the platform that they're consuming content. And so one of the things that for me, just meeting the team at PhoneLive that really made it interesting is us learning about even using our platform, the folks that we aren't connecting to. Like Hugh alluded to that at the beginning, the 20% of people who, have accessibility issues being able to tune in and watch it on Facebook or watch it on YouTube, whatever that live stream is. A lot of times that's vital information. And so our goal is to enlighten and educate folks that want to ensure that they're providing accessibility, to their audience, but without having to grow their staff, right? You don't need additional folks. You don't need additional people to make this happen. And then also, we're technical people. Well, at least I am, right? We're technical folks. We don't want to have a crazy complex infrastructure to make this happen. So, the goal is like, how can you be compliant? How can you do these things, super easy and simple? And we believe PhoneLive is a great way to do that. So, we just want to make sure that this is the right webinar for you, and make sure that it's making sense. So, anything you want to add to that, Hugh?
There's a typo. Well, number 2 should be without operating additional systems or setting up complex structures.
Look at that. You're absolutely correct. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to show you a 5-minute solution, and no additional staff, and that's what makes it so cool. It's not a hack.
Got it.
Mhm.
So, what I'd love to do is like set the stage, right? For all the folks that are, currently live streaming, why would somebody in your community not be able to watch a live stream, right? Like, when you think about people that are tuning in, you're producing and putting on these live streams, what are some of the challenges for folks not being able, to actually watch the live stream? And, if that's, question number one is, do you know the challenges, right? Like that are preventing your community members from even being able to watch? And, what are the things that you can do to help, circumvent those challenges? And so, Hugh, if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to kind of hear how you can make a difference, for this population that you are so passionate about solving, these challenges for.
Sure. Yeah, so the visually impaired, they can't see to navigate to see your live stream. They go through a lot of complications there if they try to do
Hmm.
that. Um, and then about 12.5% don't have adequate access to broadband. And what that includes is rural folks that, because they're rural, they're very expensive to get customer support. And so their broadbands go down a lot, they're inconsistent, and there's challenges with
Hmm.
that. But then also inner city poverty. Poor folks a lot of times can't afford the right kind of broadband to enjoy a live stream. And so that has an access problem. Digital literacy is kind of a cycle because there's always upgrades, there's always new techniques, there's new ways to navigate around the screen. Windows and Apples
Hmm.
are always changing that. So soon as grandma learns how to navigate the computer, a pop-up shows up and she doesn't know what to do. So digital literacy is this fight that we're always going after. Um, and especially for the elderly people that are nervous in the environment, once they learn something, as soon as it changes. My mother-in-law, basic texting, right? She gets a funny text message, she blows up. She can't handle texting because something happened that she wasn't expecting.
Hmm.
Um, and we mentioned the inner city poverty, 13% that can't afford it. That's their access problem. The 18% have a limited digital literacy, so they can do some things, but they're not totally comfortable with the live stream. And about 2.5% are shut-ins. Either can't afford, they can't operate with digital literacy, or they have health issues. For instance, dry skin will impact, the hearing impaired will impact, their sight is declining. So even if you buy them a computer and you buy them internet and set them up, they are
Hmm.
still having challenges connecting.
Follow-up question. So why is this meaningful to you? Like why was this a problem that you and the team at PhoneLive set out to solve?
Well, elderly people, there's an appreciation for them, and
Hmm.
for them to miss out on something, was really the heartbeat behind the initial starting with this. But since we started this, we have discovered that people that can't be involved end up being depressed. And that
Mm,
depression can be so bad it's equivalent to smoking 13 cigarettes a day. And so when you make accessibility for people to be engaged and to belong and feel belonging, you're actually not streaming live, you're streaming life.
I love that. Streaming live. That's pretty cool. Is that on your website?
It is. It's part of our slogan.
I like that. It's cool. Cool. No, I appreciate that. Thanks for sharing. So I guess, that gets me thinking, the stats are there, right? The numbers
Mhm.
don't lie. So like what are some of the like policies that exist out here? And what is our government, whether it's city, state, local governments, what are they doing to help address these challenges and issues?
Right. As you see here, so many different programs, policy rules, and grants involved because this is really a complex issue.
Hmm.
But the funny thing is, we're going to resolve what these guys are chasing in 5 minutes for live streams. Now, their scope's a little bigger than just the live stream. Their scope is also the website. But this is a real problem. That's why so much money, so much energy, and is behind this. And in particular, two key parts here: the open meeting laws. That your meeting should be open to everybody. Impacts what we can successfully help you with the live stream. And then the Web Content Access Guidelines, WCAG. And that's real interesting because there's deadlines for WCAG. For cities over 50,000, it's April of 2026. And for cities under 50,000, it's April 2027 that they have to have accessibility in place.
And what are these is any of these programs stand out that are resolved by PhoneLive? Like where are you guys really focusing? Um,
Um, yeah, so there's two main areas. One is assistive technology, and
okay.
assistive technology has to do um, people have physical problems. Okay, they can't hear, they can't see, they can't operate because of their physical body. And PhoneLive resolves that assistive situation. And then there's the accessibility side of it. Accessibility side of it is people don't have the technology available to them where they're at to connect. And so, because the phone is the largest social network in the world and in North America, overcomes that accessibility problem. And the assistive part is the phone is so common and so simple that everybody can use it.
True. Yeah. You think about the what do they call it? The plain old telephones, POTS lines, right? So,
Mhm.
I'm sure there's definitely areas within the US that those are still prominent, back to your point about having data and having connectivity, out in those rural areas. And so from what I understand, Phone Live does just in its innate nature helps with that because
Mhm.
not having broadband should not be the limiting factor, and that would enable you to be updated or aware of content that's happening within your community, whether you're out in outside of the city or in the city you don't have connectivity. So
We had
I guess go
a
ahead.
unique customer call today. In Canada, they're getting ready to go on a mail strike.
I'm sorry, what did you
And
say?
in Canada,
Uh-huh.
the postal system is getting ready to go on a strike.
Okay, I thought you said milk strike. That's why I
No,
wanted to make sure I heard
mail,
you right the first time.
mail strike. So this organization communicates with the seniors through correspondence,
Okay.
and they're going to lose that ability. And so they rushed and called us and said, "Can you get us up in a couple of days so we can get our information out to these seniors?" Sure enough, in 5 minutes we can turn them on and have a system for them to get the information out.
Actually, let's unpack that a bit because I think that's a great use case. So you have an event or not an event, you have a challenge that has popped up, right? So,
Mhm.
hey, you're not going to receive mail, and I'm sure there could be all different types of things that are come in our common mail. And how do you you can't mail information, let people know that maybe the mail's not going to happen. Like, how do you let folks know that this is going to, impact them? Being able to
Mhm.
stand that up in such a short period of time, and have this as something that can be used on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, moving forward for any type of updates. It sounds like a vital piece of technology that cities need to have in place, correct?
Right. So in addition to meetings, PhoneLive can broadcast pre-recorded messages, MP3s, right?
Gotcha.
And PhoneLive has a subscription system that we call notifications. People can
Hmm.
subscribe. And so you can upload an MP3 of your announcements and have it sent out to that subscription list. Those people will receive a phone call and the announcements will be played for them. If they miss the phone call or if they're not on the list, they can call the toll-free number and actually hear the last broadcast. So that's what they're going to be
Got it.
using to replace the mail.
So no matter what, whether it's 8 o'clock in the morning or 8 p.m. at night, there is a way for these citizens to be updated and aware of what's happening by calling in, whether it's a real-time call or a post-event call, correct?
Right.
Got it. Are there are there any states that are like really doubling down on this and really I guess creating regulation around this?
Even more so. So the previous slide, the policies, guidelines, and rules were generic to overall web experience,
Hmm.
okay, which includes live streaming. These particular states on this slide here are actually requiring web streaming or live streaming. And so this is becoming more prevalent as a necessary communication channel. And in fact, the state of Iowa not only requires live streaming, but it has to be paralleled with a phone bridge for folks who can't watch the live stream. And so some of these states actually have those policies in place. Some of these states are in the process of trying to pass laws in that area, and that's the trend of the future.
Uh, do you know, and then just kind of put you on the spot, like why has Iowa decided to make this, a requirement, and be I guess the beachhead in this initiative?
Well, Iowa is part of the food basket that feeds the world. And so most of it's extremely rural. And so they probably have a lot of experiences with uh, poor internet connections in the rural areas.
Got it.
And that's why
Makes
they're
sense.
probably leading with the telephone.
Makes perfect sense. Got it. This is cool. See, one of the things I love about having different folks on, it just gives an opportunity to really get a deeper understanding of subjects that you're deeply familiar with, and spending time thinking about and solving problems. Just same with me, right? We're always thinking about
Mhm.
like how can we do more for our customers and making sure we're amplifying whatever that content is, and so yeah, I mean, my mind is just racing on additional thoughts around why this isn't more prevalent in cities and states, and why this isn't like a no-brainer. Like everything should be leveraging this from not just an emergency kind of component, but even in events and like things that are happening within the community, because these are ways that other community members can understand what's going on and be able to support, and that's how economic development happens, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, just if I haven't said it, like what you guys are doing is pretty amazing, and I'm glad to see you guys are venturing out in different verticals, leveraging this technology. So yeah,
Yeah.
I just wanted to
And again,
give you your flowers now.
it's more than an event, it's life. This is a
Yes,
style of keeping people
exactly.
connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk to me about compliance and why it matters, and how to
Mhm.
avoid risk, right? So I know one of the things you were mentioning kind of, one of our earlier calls is, the three kind of components around this. So if you wouldn't mind, walk me through, this slide that we have here
Mhm.
and how Phone Live is really focused on solving these components that are here.
Sure. So the three items here are the visual, the cognitive, and the mobility impaired. This is assistive technologies. So we even serve people that have dementia
Hmm.
because they get put on this subscription list. They receive a phone call when the event happens. They pick up a phone, a common device they know how to use, and they hear a common voice. And so it's even used with them. Mobility, people who have physical problems and being able to operate keyboard, mouse, things like that. So that's the assistive stuff. The unavailable broadband, and that should be actually maybe say unavailable, unavailable adequate broadband. This is the accessibility component, reaching those people that don't have the equipment or access to the channels and stuff. And then there's a third one that kind of broadens the picture a little bit, and it's the temporary disadvantage. And so if you had an important meeting you had to be part of and you're traveling and you're trying to watch the live stream, it
Hmm.
probably will buffer, go in and out, have those kind of problems. With Phone Live, you're actually on a live phone call. There is no buffering. And so people that travel and can listen to the meeting, and there's nothing visual to distract them from their driving. Some people use it while walking, exercise, running. Some people use it while they're in a place where there is no internet connection, like at camp, out camping. So there's those temporary disadvantages too, kind of like the bonus here in applying a good accessibility technology to your situation. And then the three-legged stool we want to look at is resolution, remedy, and responsibilities.
Okay, walk me through that. Yeah.
So on the resolution side, it's a mixture of regulation and passion, right? You want to help and serve and include these people and bring life to them. So we call it resolution for that reason. And then on the remedy side, um, what's the remedy? There's a lot of hack, a lot of extra work, something that's unstable, that has to be monitored and maintained and managed. And then there is the responsibilities. Who's going to take care of this?
Hmm.
Okay. So if we go back, let's see here. There we go. So if you don't have that resolution that you want to serve these people, you're going to overlook them. So you see the opposite corner that says overlook. That's the problem when the resolution is missing. Okay. And if remedy is missing, you're going to do something that's outlandish. All right.
Like,
We had a prospective customer come to us, and they were doing manual phone bridge, and they end up having a person listen to the meeting for 6 hours.
the person, listen.
Listening for 6 hours. Their phone was live,
And
and they had to pay for that phone call for 6 hours because it wasn't automated. Then there are some people try to address accessibility by transcribing their meeting. Thank God for AI. But then they have to file away, and then they have to have a service desk that you can go to and ask for a copy, and then you have to make a copy and hand it out to the person. And so the remedy there isn't that smooth, right?
hmm.
Okay. And then if it's going to burden your team, they're going to be overworked, because of the people's responsible for it. You've got to have somebody extra at the meeting. If they're sick, they can find somebody else who knows how to operate the phone bridge. Um, and if you're running copies and transcribing, just more FTE work. And so when you're looking for accessibility, you want that all to be balanced. You want to serve the overlooked. You don't want to do anything that's outlandish, just so you're covered by the regulation. And you don't want to have a bunch of responsibilities and overworking your people. You want to be reasonable with your team and their productivity.
The three O's. I like it. So definitely these are the intangibles that Phone Live are resolving for by implementing that probably go unnoticed, probably, right? You don't
Mhm.
realize, what it takes. Just like you mentioned from an outlandish perspective, like that to me does not make sense, right? To be able to sit on a 6 hour call, because there's no system to do so. And that person had to do that because that was what they believed was the solution. And knowing that, like what you said, earlier, within 5, 10 minutes, you can be up and running with a phone live system. Like that's amazing, right? And
Mhm.
so, again, just to kind of recap, there's definitely ways, like you mentioned,
Mhm.
to do so. But here is good examples, right, of
Mhm.
showcasing, some of the alternatives,
Mhm.
but again, like you mentioned, some of the disadvantages, to that, from whether it's transcripts or audio recordings or even conference bridges or Zoom or Skype, right?
Right.
I think this does a good job of kind of mapping out those
Right.
opportunities there.
Right. So both of these, the delayed alternatives on the left and the conference bridge alternatives on the right, are both systems that people who have that resolution, they want to serve those folks, try to
Hmm.
use, right? And so they have that overlooked part taken care of. But their disadvantages is when the outlandish work they have to go through and the overworking of their FTEs to accomplish those goals. And so, delayed alternatives, they're delayed. There's a lot of manual work there. There's the work to create, and then there's the work to manage it, to make it accessible to the public. On the conference bridge side, you got menus and access codes, and everybody has been in that meeting where somebody wasn't muting and hollering at their kid. Um, and then, free conference calls says they're free, but they really aren't, because free conference call actually gets commission back from the telephone switch.
Hmm.
And so they use telephone switches that are very expensive that will give them back a great commission. And if your grandmother's on an old landline and never bought a long distance plan, we have people called where in a 1 hour meeting, their grandmother for the month got billed over $100 from the
Mm-mm-mm.
telephone company using free conference call. And when that happens, it's not a pretty picture. And
No,
they're
no.
very happy to find PhoneLive. Um, and then you have this person trying to run the phone bridge, and usually the phone bridge is not part of the live stream in a parallel system, and so you've got all that extra work that you really don't need to have.
So what's the solution?
Phone life.
You like that setup, right?
Yeah, yeah. Think of it as an automated conference bridge, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, and so we're going to stream the audio signal from your live video broadcast. So you just do your video broadcast that you're doing today. That's all you do. You hit
Hmm.
that live button on your video broadcast system, done. We take it from there. That's why you don't need another FTE. That video broadcast, we take the audio signal and we will connect it to a toll-free number that we'll give you. You have your own toll-free number. And anybody who calls that phone number will hear the meeting. It's a one-way broadcast. There's no menu, and there's no access code, and there's no muting. So it's all automated. It will automatically record your meeting for you. If somebody were to call after the meeting, they're going to hear the last meeting. And then also you can download that recording, the MP3, and put it in your archive systems, however you want to manage that there. And then you will also get a report that will tell you who's listening, how long they listened, did they call in or did you call them? And you'll have all those details and you'll see the system working. So one of the outstanding features about PhoneLive is there is no vanity metrics.
Hmm.
And if nobody's using the system, you know nobody's using the system, and you can call us and cancel your subscription. So the fact that you can close down your account because nobody's using it is one of the outstanding features of PhoneLive.
So it is safe to say that once you have this automated conference bridge up and running, it's more of a set it and not to say set it and forget it. I don't want to make it sound bad, but there really isn't any more configurations that you need to do on a week
Mm,
by week or broadcast by broadcast or stream by stream basis.
correct. Um, for the broadcast, right? And for the reports and managing the subscribers,
Hmm.
there's some work to do there, right? Depending on how you want to manage that. But the broadcast will work automatically. You can set it and forget it. We've got uh, clients that have been using this for 5 years, right?
Awesome.
And they change staff. And the new staff member comes on, and after a few months, doesn't even know that PhoneLive's there. Finds out PhoneLive's there, calls us, says, what is this? And it's like, this is what it does. And then it looks at it and go, oh, wow, they are using it. Right? So even the new
It's
staff
awesome.
member coming on didn't even know that it was there, and it's still working, still doing its thing. Also, the audio recording at the end of your broadcast can be posted automatically to a podcast channel.
Nice.
So you can make it accessible that way. Um, and then, of course, those that are subscribed to your system, whenever you hit that go live button on your video system, it
Hmm.
calls all your subscribers.
Are there any like limitations on the number of participants that can receive a call?
The largest we've done is 100,000. Okay. But there's the one little gotcha there. We call out 50 phone numbers a minute. And so the 100,000 broadcast was an MP3 recording,
Hmm.
and the MP3 recording would play whenever they answered the phone. But in a live meeting, it's 50 a minute. And so within 2 or 3 minutes, depending on how many people you're on your subscriber list, it'll be
That's
called.
huge. That's a big number. 100,000? Like,
Hmm.
could you imagine, someone having a live stream with that much views? That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So,
Yeah.
no,
Our our largest weekly broadcast is 1,600 subscribers.
consistent. Like, I like that. Yeah. So I'd love to just to kind of recap for the technology, inclined folks so they can kind of understand like how this works and the flow. Um, if you wouldn't mind, maybe just like walk us through or, like how this would be for someone that's, using Switchboard, how simple and easy they could integrate Phone Live or, as a recipient of their live stream, coming from Switchboard.
Sure. So we are RTMP destination, just like
Got it?
Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn and everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And so in your video encoder, you would just add our RTMP signal, and that's the 5 minute setup. And then whenever you go live broadcast, that is sent to our Phone Live servers, where we separate out the audio signal and connect it to your toll-free number. And help you reach all those folks, the shut-ins, those with dementia, rural residents, inner city poor, the blind, and parolees. So there are parolees that are regulated. Either they're not allowed on the internet or limited on what they can do on the internet. And so in working with parolees, this is a great tool for connecting with them.
So wait, let me just regurgitate that back. So basically, so folks that like are using Switchboard, they would, have their encoder coming into Switchboard. So live videos coming into Switchboard. They would add an RTMP destination, which has the RTMP information from PhoneLive, right? One time setup.
Mhm.
And then when they hit start, so they're going live on Facebook and X and Rumble and YouTube, then this fifth or fourth destination would be Phone Live. Video would go there, and your system would then take the audio and then physically call the subscribers, to that conference bridge, and people could watch on YouTube as well as receive a phone call on their cell phone and or landline. That's it.
Yep. And it takes attendance automatically, right? So we worked with a senior organization that was receiving government funding, and they got paid according to the people that attended the meeting. And so we had that automatic documentation. Also, again, with parolees, if you're in a situation where you have to document if they participated or not, this would also automatically take that attendance.
That's pretty cool. I didn't think about that. Yeah, because yeah, you're make the call is happening,
Hmm.
and back to your point about the statistics, you can have a log, right, of how
Right,
long that phone line is connected to the call, right?
right. Hmm. Yep, you could identify new phone numbers. So if there's a new person calling in, you can call them back and check on them, and their questions were answered. And if you're a politician, it's a good way to build that relationship. Obviously, they were interested in the topic of the meeting. Um, so yeah, it does a lot more than regular phone bridge.
Are there any so like you mentioned earlier, the strike in the mail system, are off the top of your head, are there any other like interesting use cases that you can share regarding folks implementing phone live?
Well, it went viral during COVID, right?
What do you mean? Like,
Well, people thought they could go live stream in COVID, then they found out that the senior adults and the blind and whatever weren't able to join, and
hmm
that's where we went viral, built our company. Um, and then also you've got people because they don't have internet access or can't use the internet, they're not receiving your emails, right? And so we've got organizations that do a verbal version of their email, upload the MP3, and send that out. Um, Special like mini podcasts, or a weekly touch-in with folks that want to be a part of the circle. People use it
got
for
it.
that. Um, but majority of it's the meeting and people that want to be a part of that organization or that meeting, be informed, be on top of things, live outside their home and not be stuck in a dark room 24
Yeah.
hours a day.
Yeah, I think so. Like you mentioned, like one of the smallest feature is just from a mobility perspective, right?
Mhm.
Whether you're at home and if you don't have the connectivity or you're on the go, still being able to connect and pop in an AirPod and receive the call and continue whether you could be shopping right,
Mhm.
and you can have this in your pocket and be a part of that call. So these are like the
Yep.
little things where you just probably again take for granted, but this it's allowing folks to still be engaged, to be a part of that content. I gravitate towards content, but it's a call, right? The same
Mhm.
thing. But being able to have that information presented to them in a simple manner is huge. And
Mhm.
yeah, I love the fact that this
Right.
is accessible.
So another feature is there's no app, no software. All people
Definitely.
need is a telephone number, right? So you don't have to give instructions. Install the software, scan this QR code, open the app, or anything like that. Just call the number, and you're
Yeah,
in.
you think about it. Like, there's no downloading of an app.
Mhm.
There's no updates that need to happen on the phone. Because think about all the apps that we have.
Mhm.
There's updates that's always happening. And that's just on, cell phones, right? And
Right.
so back to the earlier comment around folks who have the POTS lines and,
Right.
and things at home, like, yeah, you're able to connect with them. When they may not have the broadband access, and that's sad because those definitely get overlooked for sure.
Mhm. Yep.
So that we were chatting, back to like the regulations and so forth around web content accessibility guidelines, the WCAG, and
Mhm.
love to understand like what are some of the federal mandates for like city meetings to comply with this.
Mhm.
Are
Right.
there are there definitely some mandates that folks need to be aware of because these compliant elements are coming down the pipe?
Mhm. So there's three components. First of all, as far as mandates, those are coming from the states, right?
Okay.
That you have to do live streaming. Um, the federal law, the WCAG guidelines that have the deadline of April 26 and April 27, that guidelines has two parts. It has the guidelines
Hmm.
and it has the how-tos to make deliveries. And so the guidelines can be interpreted as regulation, even though they're not included on the how-tos. Okay. And so those guidelines are built around a model called POUR, P-O-U-R. And so to be compliant to those guidelines with your live
Hmm.
stream, you need to meet these four requirements. It needs to be a receivable system. Information, the user interface components must be presented to the user in a way that they can perceive.
Okay.
Okay, and this is where the phone, being the largest social network, everybody knows how to perceive and use a phone. That needs to be operable. The user interface components and navigation must be operable. Call the phone number or you answer a phone. That's how you operate PhoneLive,
Simple.
right? Must be understandable. Information and the operation of the user interface must be understandable. There's no menu, no access code, no muting. You just listen, right? So it's pretty understandable. Robust. The content must be robust enough that it can be interpreted reliably by a wide variety of user agents, including assistive technologies. So if you've got a phone on the wall, if you've got a cell phone, if you have a specialized handicap phone that you
Hmm.
use, it works with all of them, right? And as we've demonstrated the robustness of it, of all the different people groups that it serves, and all the different ways those people can be served, it's extremely robust.
So just to make sure I understand, you have these dates that are coming, and you said April of 2026 and April of 20. What are there like bands or the guidelines? Are there, is it population based? Like
Yeah, right. So
yeah, how was that
the first
broken
one,
out?
April 2026, is for cities 50,000 or more,
Okay.
and the April 27 is for cities 50,000 less.
So for the cities, are they like scrambling to get IT folks to make this happen? I mean, is this something that, again, is phone line really that easy to kind of come in and just plop in and
Mhm.
now they are compliant?
On the live stream, right?
Okay.
So these regulations do also cover your website as well. So
Mm.
on the
Oh, okay.
component of your live stream, this meets those requirements. Um, and so we only do the live stream part of it, but the cities have to do their websites as well.
So a good course of action would be to that this date's coming, to really take a
Hmm.
look at it from your website as well as your live stream and put an action plan in place to cover it, right? So you
Right.
have components in place to do it for your website. Maybe there's like guidelines, I'm sure, right?
Hmm.
Like you
Yeah.
mentioned here from the port perspective. Are there like any types of tests or tools that can assess if your website is compliant or your live streams are compliant?
There are consultants who do, and majority of those consultants have been strictly focused on the website. They have
Hmm.
not paid any attention to the live stream component of it, right? So if you talk to them about this, they're not interested in live stream, right? But these guidelines says your live stream needs to meet these requirements. And so it's a 5 minute deal with PhoneLive, um, you know, and we have tested it for 5 years with over 1,150 clients, over 60 million minutes of broadcasting. It's been thoroughly and well tested and used. Again, people with dementia, the blind, um, people that don't have the physical abilities to use a keyboard or mouse,
Hmm.
uh, senior people who nothing to do with computers. Even people who think there's a devil in the computer use the system. So
Blue
um,
screen of death.
yeah, it's really robust. In fact, we've had a couple of technology people on social media challenge us. They say, I believe in God and I believe that Christ walked on the water. I believe that Christ did miracles, but
Mhm.
there's no way that you can get internet access on a phone without the internet. Well, we just proved you
That
wrong.
is true. I love it. I love it. Um, so we're just zooming through this. I didn't realize like that's one of the things I love about these is, we get into conversation, truly learning about a topic. We're at 47 minutes in, so I just want to make sure we're good on time. One thing I love to kind of like wrap it up, right? Like, what are some of your thoughts on from a community? Go to the slide as well. What are some of your thoughts on from the community perspective, right? Um, Making, I know you mentioned, making
Right,
this obviously available for folks with vision and cognitive and mobility impairments, but yeah, I'd love to kind of
right.
give you an opportunity to kind of wrap this up and really hit
Sure.
home on why this matters, especially for, from a community perspective.
Right. And with transparency in your whole community. Nobody's being left out. Everybody's important. It improves participation in your community projects when people know. So whatever is not brought up is brought down. And what that means is what you haven't talked to people about the project and they've been left outside of the project, they're going to be against the project, right? But the more people that you have engaged in, this is what we're planning on doing, this is how we're going to do it, give us some input, they're going to be behind you, they're going to support you, and you're going to have more success with that participation in those projects. Um, you're giving people options for what works best for them. And that's why we like teaming up with Switchboard. Switchboard doesn't just stream on Facebook, right? It gives people the option of the media they want to use to receive the stream. And now with PhoneLive, that also includes those with accessibility and assistive issues. Um, you'll gain more political support, better relationships in the community. You
Hmm.
can clearly document that you're meeting the poor accessibility standards. You can lower your operating costs. I mean, there's no additional FTE needed for the system, and you're going to take some of those FTEs that are overworked and be able to allocate them to other important things that you need in your community. And so the staff will can be reallocated, and that in turn lower your cost.
I think the last 2 points, from just from a business owner perspective, like those are huge, right? Being able to
Mhm.
take that full-time equivalent employee and being able to allocate them to do more, right? Like that is, one of those hidden gems of being able to offer, something that wasn't offered before, not overwork, staff
Mhm.
member or team to be able to have to implement, but then be able to do more, right? That's always like a great equation, right? Do more with less.
Mhm.
And I think this is an epitome of that. Um, Cost structure, right? So like going back to this, right? Talk to us about from a cost perspective, like like from a threshold perspective, is this something where once a city does look to implement, is there a lot of
Mhm.
red tape you have to get, a lot of
Oh,
sign
right,
offs?
right. So we're very affordable, and so I won't say we're under the radar, right? But we're not $100,000 investment.
Got it.
Uh, so it's very affordable. Most likely, under easily under 15,000, under 13,000 or less. It's a monthly subscription, and we do charge cents per minute. Those cents
Hmm.
per minute are applied to your minimum amount. And if you go over your minimum amount, then you pay the extra for the extra minutes. Um, but in a minute, by the way, is a broadcast minute and a listening minute. We're paying for all these telephone calls. So if you broadcast for 30 minutes, one person listens for 15, another person listens for 10 minutes. That's a total of 55 minutes.
Got it. Makes
And
sense. Yeah.
a lot of people think of us as an internet company, and why do we have these costs? Well, we're really a telephone company connected to the internet,
Hmm.
and
No,
so
it's
we have to pay all the switch operators.
no, it makes perfect sense. I mean, it's usage, right? That's
Mhm.
the usage component.
Right.
But yeah, that sounds like it's very, economical and affordable. Um, Especially if you compare that, like you mentioned, to having someone sit on a call for 6 hours as a full-time equivalent person, right? Like you don't want
Right.
that to be the case. So
Yeah.
love it.